So I'm going to pass over to Carl, who's going to talk to you about the Digital Leaders Bootcamp. This is part of our programme with Smart Guernsey, economic development programme to deliver upskilling and leadership programmes to Guernsey, to support Guernsey businesses. So he will take you through, and then we'll have some Q&A at the end. Thank you, Carl.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Lucy. Thank you. So yeah, first of all, thank you everyone for making the time. I realise that it's sunny outside, so there's probably better places to be than listening to a person from the north rattling on about the importance of digital leadership. So yeah, first of all, thank you for making that time. And just to give a very short introduction to myself, so my name's Carl, work for Avado Learning, been working for the company now for 6 years, work very closely with Lucy and the team at Digital Greenhouse, and have been doing so now for about 12 to 18 months, working on a number of different projects, the Digital Leaders Bootcamps being one of them. We've actually delivered 3 in the last 12 months, 3 of these Digital Leaders Bootcamp sessions. We've got the 4th one due to be delivered on the 26th and the 27th of May. And ultimately, we'll be sharing details if you were interested in signing up, where and how you can do that. But the purpose of today's session really is to give you a short overview of the actual bootcamp itself, in terms of a little bit of the who, the what, the how. And hopefully by the end of the session, you'll have a little bit more understanding of what it actually is and how it works, and actually what's being taught and the learning outcomes on the programme itself. So as Lucy mentioned, happy to answer questions throughout, whether that's you want to save that until the end, or you want to ask during the actual presentation. Hopefully I'll be able to answer those as well. So yeah, I'll just start by really just giving a couple of lines really in terms of a summary of what it actually is, the Digital Leaders Bootcamp session. You see a little bit of a description here, but ultimately it's a virtual workshop designed to develop the confidence of business leaders, and actually giving people that ability and that confidence to be able to support digital transformations. So how it does it is looking at developing the mindset of innovation, and how to be able to innovate within a fast-paced environment, which is, over the last 12 months, I think people have been working at quicker paces than ever before, and we've seen, not just in Guernsey, but other organisations that we work with globally, we've seen that pace and that transition of the digital transformation sped up really over the last 12 months. So it talks about how you can do that. And kind of one of the key purposes of the workshop is that it equips leaders with the tools that are needed to drive that culture change within an organisation. So those are the key takeaways, and that's really a very short summary of what it actually is in terms of the session itself. And obviously over the next few slides, we'll be going over a little bit more information about the actual detail, and like I said before, a little bit more of the how, the who and the what. So in terms of the audience and who is this workshop for, there's kind of a few things to consider here. The information which I'm about to discuss, and you can see on the screen there, it's not just exclusive for those people. So if you don't necessarily fit into these categories, that's not to say that you can't attend, but this is just to give you an idea and a flavour of the type of people that have attended within Guernsey, but also outside of Guernsey as well. So if you find yourself actually not fitting into this bracket, but you're still interested in actually attending the workshop, then just reach out to myself and Lucy, and we can have a conversation about whether or not it will potentially be suitable. But just as a guideline really in terms of the audience. So we often find it's senior managers, execs within an organisation who are looking for that confidence that they can implement and execute a digital strategy. We also have change agents and project managers that are on board as well. So quite often if you've got, let's say, a business transformation team, or people that are working within kind of project management, those type of individuals that are leading on that digital change and that digital transformation quite often attend this workshop. We've also had current managers and future leaders that are attending this as well. And kind of part of their role has been to execute and lead on those digital initiatives across an organisation. In addition to the 3 points that I've mentioned on the screen there, we've also had individuals that kind of know digital is important, but they're just not quite sure what to do with it and how to scope it in the right direction. So that is another potential individual. You might want to know a little bit more about how to approach that transformation across an organization, how to implement it, and the key components. So you might be in that particular bracket. And it might be that you want to expand your interaction with customers, or kind of had that customer-centric approach. So if you're involved in kind of any of those components, really the points that I've just mentioned and that you can see on screen, we've had in the main those type of individuals within an organisation attending this workshop. So hopefully that helps provide a little bit of clarity of potentially who that audience is, and the type of people that attend. But just to reiterate that if you don't fall into any of those categories but are still interested, then just reach out to me and Lucy, and we can offer advice and support as to whether or not it could be a good fit. So what it actually is, so you'll be able to see kind of the key components really of what the workshop entails and what it enables leaders to be able to do at the end of the session. So what we look to implement really is have for individuals to get that deeper understanding of the digital landscape. Obviously that's consistently changing. We've been delivering this particular bootcamp now for 3 or 4 years, and as you can imagine, every few months we have to kind of revisit what's important, what's trending. So this is constantly kind of under review in terms of what we're actually delivering on the program. But it's enabling leaders to have that deeper understanding of the digital landscape and the environment around it. What we do as well is look at learning from external organisations, not just necessarily how to implement a digital transformation, but also how not to as well. So we kind of share the good and the bad in terms of examples. And some of those examples are first-hand experience that we've been involved with other organisations as well. So it'll enable you to be confident about the mindset and the behaviours that you need to embed to be able to enable that digital transformation. So that quite often we find that within the workshop, of course, it's an excellent learning experience and it's interactive, of course, but it's about what you do afterwards and what behaviours you need to implement and embed across the organisation. So it'll enable you to take that forward and get that infrastructure in place. And then define the final point there, as you can see, is defining those actions that are needed to be able to implement those changes. So one of the key things that we look to have at the end of it is that you'll have an action plan that you can then take forward. And going back to what I mentioned before about it's the impact afterwards. It's a great learning experience, yes, but it's about what you do afterwards and how you take things forward. So one of the key things that you'll hopefully be able to take away is that personal action plan to be able to say, okay, we need to do A, B, and C to be able to get to your overall goals or objectives. And just to expand on that a little bit, so the actual workshop itself, conscious people might be kind of wanting to know how it's actually delivered. So it's separated into 2 half days. Normally they're from around 9 AM till 1 PM. So normally kind of 2 sets of 4-hour workshops, which are delivered over successive days. So the next one, as I mentioned before, is on the 26th and the 27th of May. So on the first session, on the first day, you'll be covering 2 topics here, which you can see: digital context and customer obsession. So what you'll find within digital context, is that it sets the scene by looking at kind of recent technological trends, easy for me to say. And it looks at digital disruption and business shifts and how you can actually create innovation within that digital environment. So that's one of the first things that we'll be looking at within the first half of day 1. Then we look at customer obsession. So it looks at kind of an organization's bigger picture and what their customer expectations are, and how you can explore the ideas of where the actual organization, your own organization is going. So again, part of that process is being able to generate ideas and starting points and looking at that customer-centric approach and looking a little bit into the actual customer journey as well, and how you can support that experience that a customer has with your organisation from a digital perspective. So that's delivered over half day. You can probably see here, the text might be a little bit small, so I'm conscious of that, but you'll have kind of regular breaks throughout that. So we're very aware that people have, certainly over the last 12 to 18 months, people have become a little bit screen fatigued and have been probably a little bit tired of staring at the screen for the last 12 to 18 months. So we are conscious that in the session as well, there's regular breaks, it's interactive, but later on in the presentation, I'll be going into a little bit more detail of what and the how it's delivered. But yeah, so that'll be delivered digital context and customer obsession over the first half day. Then on the second day, you'll be looking at two more topics. First one being think big, start small, scale fast. And effectively what that is looking at key principles of working in an agile way, how you can apply that agile methodology, and really look how you can actually make transformation happen, and how you can do that using agile and sprint-based approaches. So we often find that agile project methodologies are usually broken down into small pieces, and they're often called sprints. And just in case you're not familiar with sprints, generally they're kind of like short projects that are normally split into days or weeks. And the key purpose of those sprints is that an organisation then can actually release segments of projects as they're progressing and assess it as they're actually working their way through the project. So rather than it being kind of waiting until the end of the project to assess whether it's been successful, it's actually breaking it down into different stages, being in a position where you can assess it as you go along. So it's very much a test, learn, iterate approach. So if any of you have read kind of information on like the importance of agility and those methodologies, some of this might ring a bell. So it looks at how you can actually take that forward within a transformation. And then what you'll find the final part of the session is looking at the right culture for innovation. So it shows how you can actually foster and create that culture within an organisation and how you can embed the relevant behaviours within that. And it also, as I mentioned before, it helps you build that plan that you can take forward, and also looks at any kind of barriers to change that you might have within your organisation. Admittedly, most organisations will have one or two or possibly even more barriers when they're looking at a digital transformation, but it's how you can overcome them and what methodologies and what approaches you can take to be able to combat those. So hopefully that helps describe a little bit more of kind of what the actual journey looks like. So yeah, just to reiterate, 2 half-day sessions, first day being usually from 9 till 1, and then the second day being a similar time as well. I'll move on to the learning outcomes. So there's 4 really key learning outcomes that we feel individuals get at the end of the programme. So it's explain what ultimately we'll be looking for them to achieve is that those individuals will be able to explain the evolving technology landscape and how they can actually implement that within their organisation, and having an understanding of those changing technologies and that landscape around it allows you then to be able to look at how you can transform and become a little bit more, I suppose, future-proof is probably the right term to use. The second part is looking at applying design thinking principles. So that's all looking at putting yourself in your customer's shoes. So being in a position where you can think about your products, your processes, and then assessing really whether or not there's elements within that could improve your customer journey from a digital point of view. So it's actually how you can deliver that excellent customer experience through a digital lens. Third learning outcome is how you can adopt that agile mindset. So coming back to what I mentioned really on the other slide. So kind of what methodologies you can take forward, how you can work in an agile way, which then ultimately allows you to respond in a more flexible way and in a lot quicker way to certain change. And obviously we found that in the last 12 months that generally speaking, talking across the globe, that those businesses that have been able to respond to change pretty quickly have been the ones that have thrived throughout that. So it looks how you can adopt that mindset and take those principles forward. And then the final learning outcome is looking at the strengths and also the weaknesses of organisational culture, and going back again to what I've mentioned about how you can overcome those barriers. So it looks at kind of being able to combat those, which then ultimately leads to kind of longer term sustainability across an organisation. So they're the 4 key learning outcomes that we have on that. So a little bit more on the how. I've put kind of 6 points really in terms of the how. I won't read each of them, but going back to what I mentioned before, kind of a few things to note for me, which are particularly important with this, is that it's not just a case of, for those half days, you're just listening to a facilitator talk about how important it is to be agile, or how important it is to have that digital transformation. It's actually having those live sessions, those discussions, those challenging conversations really through those speakers, discussions, group activities, reflections. All of those things are built into the workshop. So it's not a case of you can turn your camera off for the 4 hours and you can just listen in. It's very very hands-on, and we feel quite often that in terms of a learning exercise, we found that's the best way to be able to get the most out of it. So we're keen on actually building a keen interactive experience, and done really through each of these 6 pillars. So of active learning, experiential, applicable, peer learning, interactive, and offering that long-term value at the end. So as I mentioned before, it's about it's been a fantastic learning experience. I've learned this, I've learned that. These are the learning outcomes, but what do I do next? So that's the key thing and key principle that we try and build into these workshops. Quite often you'll find, I suppose, going back to the learner journey, in terms of how it works, you will normally find you'll have 60 to 70 minutes kind of on, if you will, and maybe out of those 60 to 70 minutes, the facilitator will kind of give you the knowledge and ask questions. And then for about 20 minutes of that, you'll then go into a breakout room with other organisations, work on a particular task or project, and then come back to the group to present and have that open and honest conversation. And then after those 60 to 70 minutes, you'll then have usually about a 10 to 15 minute break, and then you'll move on to the next session. So it's kind of short sessions, but also conscious of the fact that doing this remotely and online can sometimes be challenging if you're staring at your laptop for half a day. So we try and keep that energy and keep that interactivity as high as possible. Sorry, I just saw something in the chat. I was just seeing if it was a question or not, which it wasn't, so that's fine. Bear with me. So hopefully that's helped describe a little bit more of kind of what it is, how it's delivered, kind of those key bits of information. And the next couple of slides are looking at the results of it really. So this particular slide is actually looking at the impact for the first 3 boot camps that we've delivered within Guernsey. So a few key points which we feel or demonstrates that people have had value from this. So a few interesting facts that we found that 96% of the people that attended have said that they'll be able to shift their behaviours and adopt a different way of working. So I feel that's certainly been a positive and high number. 83% have said that they're extremely likely to apply those agile principles, and that has been to deliver, whether that's kind of that customer journey or improve sales within an organisation. 91% participants indicated they'll take advantage of the data and the insight within a customer-centric approach. I think these 2 points at the bottom are important as well. So what we found, so these 2 points at the bottom about improving confidence was something that we measured before the workshop and something afterwards. So we found there was a high number of people that after attending the workshop felt there was more confident in being able to talk about digital and develop the team culture on the back of attending it. And it also mentioned that kind of methodologies, the mindset shift and those experience that they can take back to the teams was probably the most beneficial things that they actually took from the workshop. So the being able to take away those methodologies, how to shift those mindsets were the key takeaways for people. And just on top of this as well, if you do know of any organisations, people that have attended these sessions, we always encourage to have a conversation with them. Ultimately, the people that have actually been through this experience are the best people to speak to. You know, I can stand here and talk about how great it is, of course, but ultimately, I think where you get that real insight from people is actually having conversations. So we always encourage people that are potentially looking to sign up to this bootcamp to have conversations with other organisations as well, and to have that network. So yeah, that's just a few of the few key facts that we've had from the free boot camps that we've delivered so far. And then a few more results, but more in a feedback way in terms of quotes. So you'll be able to see some of the quotes, all very positive as well. I won't read all of them out, but yeah, so you can see the feedback has genuinely been excellent. And I know it might be, you could think it's easy or typical for me to say that the feedback has been excellent, but genuinely we've seen the impact that it has had, both kind of the long-term impact, but also feedback for the actual experience itself. And something I've not mentioned, the facilitator is a chap called Neil Perkins, and he's had a couple of best-selling books. The first one, forgive me, I should know the title from the top of my head, but it's how to adopt an agile mindset or how to implement an agile mindset as part of a digital transformation. It is a long title, but he has had a couple of best-selling books. So his feedback as well, particularly, has been excellent. So he's had good experience of working with multiple different organisations to help with their digital transformations as well. So he would be the individual that would be taking you through that session if you were to sign up. But yeah, going back to the feedback, as you can see, it's all been excellent feedback, and the NPS is at +63. So just to conscious, not everyone will know NPS, but it stands for the Net Promoter Score. Generally speaking, anything that's over +30 is good. And internally within Avado, for all our programs, we aim for +40. So I think +63 just categorises, or I suppose summarises, that it's been an excellent initiative so far as well. But yeah, I won't bore you too much with the details of what NPS actually means, but it's certainly a good score. And then just something else I just wanted to mention, just some of the organisations that we've worked with outside of Guernsey as well, to help, well, first of all, delivering these digital leader boot camps. And ultimately the aim for certainly the majority of these businesses is to help them with a digital transformation, or to help them adopt agile principles. But each organisations have had different objectives. That's probably been what we've helped with in the main. So you can see, yeah, AstraZeneca being certainly a topical one at the moment. Not that we're claiming credit for the vaccine or anything, but yeah, so you can see some of those organisations as well that we've helped and supported with these boot camps. And that really concludes the session. The purpose really was to give you that 20-25 minutes, just to give you that overview and understanding. Hopefully it's done that. Always open to questions, of course, but on here you can see a link to, if you wanted to sign up for the 26th and the 27th of May. I think something has been put into the chat box. I'll just check now. Yeah, where you can actually sign up. So in the chat box now, if you did want to register your interest. Alternatively, of course, if you've got any questions, anything you wanted to raise, discuss now, happy to take questions, whether that's through the chat box or verbally. But yeah, that concludes the presentation today. So I can see Lucy's popped herself back on camera, so I don't know if you was going to add something.
Probably not anything hugely useful. Just to check if we have any questions, if anyone wants to pop them in the chat or the Q&A. I think as well, just to reiterate some of Carl's points, the This is a virtual program. It's 2 half days. It's very interactive. I had the opportunity to do the program myself. It was really beneficial. Lots of group work and interactive content, not just sort of sitting and listening for a whole morning. And that this is also fully funded. So the places are available through our program, through Smart Guernsey, at a fully funded opportunity. So again, please do pop through to the link and take a look at the information. Any further questions outside of this, please pop us an email and we can connect you with Carl or see what else we can do. Excellent. I don't think we've got any questions coming through at the moment. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Carl. It was really great to get that overview. As we said, please do pop any questions later on through, and there are currently still a few places left on the upcoming bootcamp for next month. So if you are interested, we would say to go through and fill out an application form sooner rather than later, as it is the last few places on that program. There'll be another one running in about a 3-month period after that as well. Thank you for joining today. We do have a couple of final events for Data Driven Guernsey Week, one this afternoon, and then Innovation Lab is tomorrow at 1 o'clock, actually physically at the Digital Greenhouse, if you'd like to come out to a face-to-face event. Again, the tickets are all available through the Digital Greenhouse website. Thank you. And thank you, Carl.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Take care, and I'll be staying on the chat for another minute or so. So if there's any questions you want to ask, feel free. But otherwise, enjoy the sunshine.